So welcome everybody to another episode of the J2 Hub podcast. As some of you may already know, I'm running this series called Women in Property. Now, I'm not going to claim for that to be my fantastic idea. It's not my fantastic idea. It was actually my wife's idea, who said to me, listen, James, there's far too many blokes on the podcast. You need to be going to speak to ladies to see what they're doing in the property field, because they're doing some fantastic things. And I'm so glad I did. And it's led me to connect with so many different ladies in the field. Ladies from finance, ladies, solicitors, legal people doing some really, really fantastic stuff. And my guests today are actually a duo. And I'm super, super excited actually to have them on here and tell their story, because, these two are doing some fantastic things, but they're just keeping it undercover. Nobody actually knows about what they do, which was quite shocking to me, because you get onto social media and you always see what everybody's doing. So it was kind of nice to hear that these guys are just keeping it a little bit under wraps, but I'm sure they're going to share some bits for us today. So good morning to the Hard Hat ladies. Welcome.
Hi, morning.
Morning, Jasmine. Morning, Priya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, very, very well. Thank you very much, firstly, guys, for joining me on this podcast. I really appreciate your time. You girls, I know you're busy, so thank you for taking the time out this morning to join me. So look, I know most people start a podcast by asking about your background. I like to do it the other way around. So I'm going to ask you guys, tell us what your end goal is. What is the end goal for Jasmine and Priya? Where do you see yourselves when you hang up your boots and it's all done for you?
I don't think we'll probably ever hang up our boots, to be quite.
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
I just don't think that we are those people. I think that maybe we'll slow down, or some years that we'll pick it up a little bit. I think depending on what we've got going on in life. But I think that the one of many things that we have in common is we are constantly wanting to learn, constantly wanting to grow, and constantly wanting to challenge ourselves. So whatever that might look like in 1, 3, 5, 10, maybe 20, 30 years time, I think we'd always have that in common. But short term, we have other goals.
So I think in the next 1 to 3 years, I would say, our main goal is to kind of build up a pipeline of projects, mainly focusing on commercial to residential, so development opportunities, whether that may be conversions or new build. So that's primarily one of our main focuses. Another focus for this year is to develop our brand, put ourselves a little bit more out there, and kind of, as you said, we've kind of been, no, I wouldn't say keeping it under wraps. I would say just minding our own business kind of thing, not really like telling people as much what we do or what we've done. So kind of we started at the start of this year to develop our brand and social media. So continue with that, I think, throughout the next year and a half. It's something Jasmine and I we're not too keen on. And it's really kind of taken us out of our comfort zone. And every month we kind of look at it and we think, are we going to carry on? Are we going to carry on? What are we doing? Should we keep going? And it's taught us a lot in a very short space of time. So I think also with these things, you need to give it a longer period of time to measure any progress or success.
Yeah. I think the main goal as well, just to be self-sufficient. That's really a big thing for us, is to be quite self-sufficient. So I think we will constantly be investing and developing until we feel we'll keep on going at the same speed until we feel like we don't need to be as sufficient as we already are.
And I don't think that would be for a very good couple of years, to be perfectly honest. Not because we're not self-sufficient, but I think it's just right now, you know that term, we've got the fire in our belly kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now is our time to kind of work, get ourselves out there. So later on in life, we can slow down and have the opportunity to potentially, if we would like to, be at home, Jasmine, with my kids as well as her kids, because I'm not. So yeah.
I like that.
I have no comment. She keeps putting her kids onto me. I'm not sure why this happened.
I said I'll go to site. You can take care of the kids. Fair compromise, no?
It works. It works.
I'm not sure who this works for, to be quite honest.
But they're next door to each other too. But I got shot with a tunnel, interlinking tunnel. But I got shot down pretty quickly.
No.
Guys, something you said there, and I'm finding it more and more often when I speak to entrepreneurs, is that I said something, I actually said it intentionally about hanging up your boots, because I was kind of expecting you to say that you wouldn't hang up your boots. And the more entrepreneurs I speak to, they say exactly the same thing. They have no intention of hanging up their boots. And I mean, I've had a chap on my podcast who is, you may even know him. He's from, runs a designer kids brand. So, you know, yeah. And this chap, I mean, you know, he is probably at the highest level of success at the moment. And he said the same thing to me. It was kind of like, he was almost quite shocked. It was like, James, me hang up my boots? No, I'm going to carry on going until I can't go anymore. And it was like, wow, everybody I speak to who's an entrepreneur says the same thing. Do you think that's something you have always had in you, or has that kind of developed as you've gone into the property game?
I think it's a bit of both. I think both of us come from families that we've been around people that work, that the work ethic is strong. You know, they are well into their 50s, they're constantly working, there's no sign of them stopping and slowing down at all. They don't understand what we mean when we're like, you know, relax, you're getting older, you should, like, you know, take some time. Both sets of our parents, they just look at us like, what do you mean? Like, why would we slow down? So I feel like when you've been brought up in that environment, you are aware, or it's kind of almost installed in you that you like to work, to like constantly be grinding. And I think that's so important. I think that's a huge influence for both of us.
I think, yeah, for sure. I think a lot of my work ethic comes down to my parents and the people I've surrounded myself with. I think as well, predominantly, like, my dad's in business. He was never worked from anyone. He started his own business from the age of 18. So I've seen the grind and the graft he's had to do over the last like 35 years or so, 37 actually. And kind of, I will work harder so he can stop is kind of my end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's important.
No, that's nice to hear. That's really nice to hear, because I mean, I'm finding, especially with myself as well, as I was growing up, you know, sadly my dad passed away when I was 7, but my mum was always there. And I think as a young child, it kind of instills in you quite firmly what you see your parents doing. And, you know, I say to my mum often, I said, Mum, with the resources that you had and what you achieved in life is just phenomenal. You know, if I was to try and switch that up to my time now, you would be up there, you know, you'd be way up there. And people often ask me, they say, James, who's your role model? And I have to completely say it's my mum, because from 7 years old, I watched her, you know, not only dealing with having lost her husband, but dealing with depression and holding down 2 jobs and bringing up 2 young children and working to better herself. So I totally get what you say. So would you say watching your parents as a child firmly put that into your head that, look, hard work is the way?
Definitely. Priya, you go.
I would say 100% for sure. I think as well, for me, my dad is a businessman, so my mum's involved in business too, whereas my dad doesn't have a degree. So for when I was younger, education was a must. You know, kind of, my dad was like, you can do what you want in the world, but I just want you to have an education. And I think because of his work ethic and where I kind of saw it all throughout my life, it kind of gives you something to aspire to. And I don't know if you know, but I worked corporate for 7 years after I did my degree. So I worked in the city in corporate banking, and it just kind of, it wasn't for me. Like I didn't want to wake up and have to do something for someone else and let them reap the benefits while I'm the one kind of behind it, grafting, grinding, when it makes more sense for me to kind of bring the money home as opposed to feed someone else's house. I'm not saying that rudely, but.
No. I think I'm the same. I'm actually in a similar position to you, James. My dad passed when I was 10, and my mum had 3 jobs. She got a degree. She was single parent. She had no family local. So I feel like it was always installed to me, like it was just always just there, whether we spoke about it or not, was the hustle is real. Like you do whatever you have to do to make sure there's food on the table. And I feel like for me not to have done well in life would be a disrespect to the amount of effort she put in. So I don't always tell her, because I sometimes, like, I like to try to keep her humble because she's done so well in life. But Like, and I like to have a bit of a laugh with her, but she's done so well in life. So for me to then be a bit of a bum, or to not kind of reach my full potential, or to push myself as hard as she pushed herself, it's just rude. It wouldn't have been, it just wouldn't have been respectful to her, because she gave me so many opportunities to be where I am today. She's our biggest supporter. She really is.
She's our #1 fangirl, like all the time, messaging us. You've got a WhatsApp group. So I'm so proud of you girls. Well done. And
like, and we have to be grateful for that, right? Like, there's not many parents that will both Priya's dad and my mum push us so much, and they're both so involved, and I feel like it pushes us both to want to kind of do bigger developments and bring in a bigger lump sums of cash, so we can make them stop working, or at least kind of slow down their workload,
which I don't think they'll ever do, because they just think we're a kind of like a product of them, and like kind of carry on. I don't think either of them will kind of slow down as such. And I think that's one of the reasons when Jasmine and I met, and we kind of, you know, started off deciding, should we work together, should we look for projects, blah blah blah, kind of our goals and our values really did click, and we kind of matched in that sense more so, I think. And that's why I think, well, I hope we make a good team. Well, actually, I know we do.
I think we make a good team. Don't worry about it.
I like how you lady said that your mum is your #1 fan, because I'm in the same boat. My mum is my #1 fan. She's my biggest fan. In fact, you may have heard it on mine and Tej's Property Duo podcast that it is actually our mums that are our biggest fans. And, you know, my mum's quite new to Facebook and Instagram, and I can see her liking posts and commenting on stuff. And I'm like, no, mum, don't do this, please. And the other day she's like, can I join your live call on a Thursday? I've got a few things to tell. And I'm like, no, you're going to tell everybody stories of me when I'm younger. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and it's nice. It's nice to have your mum there supporting you, and it kind of gives you a purpose to kind of get out of bed every morning and kind of give back to them, because they've been so fantastic to you. Would you say that your why includes your parents in a big way then, on why you do what you do?
Come on, Priya.
I don't want to speak for Jasmine on behalf of this, but I would say for me, predominantly yes, and predominantly other factors too. However, for me, I kind of have seen the sacrifices both my mum and dad made all throughout my life, and kind of the love they have for their parents as well. And it kind of makes you like, what kind of makes you think of the bigger picture and where you want to be in kind of 10 to 15 years. And ultimately, we're going to get married, have a family of our own, and kind of, if my dad and my mum can slow down and stop working as much, that's kind of the biggest achievement for me. And just being able to kind of support them a little more. So yeah, for sure they are a huge factor in the why, but I also think you have to be really determined and have to want to do property. It's a hard industry to be in, especially kind of, I would say us, Jasmine and I, being so young. So we have, I think in the morning, you have like to get out of bed. It's not an option. You just kind of, you've got to do it. You've got to keep persevering. It's a tough field, and it kind of, you will get knocked back 150 times, but it takes that one step forward to kind of give you that want and, you know, that drive to continue. I feel like I'm rambling. Jasmine.
No, like I think Priya's why is a bit more her parents. Like I am an only child. My mum is a single parent, so it is just me and my mum. But my mum, like, I know she'll be taken care of. Like, she's cool. I'd like to, I want to help more, and when she will allow me, but I'm kind of almost in the background, like doing things, so I know one day when she needs something, I have it. But I do it more because I don't want to waste the opportunity she gave. So she is definitely a reason why, but also because I was brought up by a single parent. She worked 3 jobs, had a degree. We had like no family in London. So for me, my circumstance was a reason why I started so young, because I always said to myself, when I get married, I want to be at home with my kids. But I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be
I'm my
financial.
kid now.
Yeah, all right. And so my kids, Priya's kids, apparently next door neighbours' kids are all coming around.
James, do you want to drop your kids off too?
I was just about to add that, actually.
You know what? Basically, I've started a daycare centre. That's my second business now. That's what's happening. But that was always my
side hustle this year.
So what'd you say?
You wanted another side hustle this year? Done.
Done. Amazing. Just have snotty kids in my house. Great. So I'm just like, that was kind of my reasons. I was like, I never need to be reliant on anyone. I never need to stress my mum out. I never need my mum to feel like, because when she went through a divorce, she was kind of left with nothing. And I think that was always a worry for me. So I thought, what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm okay. I'm financially okay. And I can be at home. I can be kind of give a life to my kids that I'm just didn't really have that side of it. And still okay. So that was kind of a really big reason for me. So my circumstance and my mum was part of it, but it was more kind of setting myself up for the future. Basically, it was a really big why for me. And now it's kind of, I feel like now for me, when we take on bigger projects, it's, can we do it? Do you know what I mean? The challenge has almost become something that we thrive off of. Like, are we going to be able to do this? Like, we can do this. How are we going to do it? Like, people didn't think that we could do it. Why don't we just see what happens, you know? And that's exciting. That's it. That's kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a rush.
I get you.
Complete it, and that becomes addictive in a positive way, but it becomes addictive.
I think as well, we kind of continually push ourselves. So for like a small example, we were looking at a new deal that we were kind of considering a few days ago, and we both looked at it, and it was it kind of made sense. We knew it could work, but it was a lot larger than what we're used to. Purchase point wise, and 5 times larger than what we're used to. So not a incremental jump, kind of a significant, you know. So we both kind of looked at each other, and I know both of us inside were thinking, we can do it. But both of us were like, had to then kind of rein it back and be like, this is not for us, not yet. I think one of the things, again, why we work so well together is because we know our boundaries, and we have to be sensible and kind of slow and steady, as opposed to let's jump 5 times forward. And, you know, when you're talking about 5 times increase in purchase price, it's 5 times the chance of making a mistake. That's going to obviously increase your costs and whatever. So in that sense, we continually like to be challenged, but we kind of know our boundaries and know how much risk we should be spreading. And
yeah. I mean, the purchase price was, I think it was nearly 6 million.
Yeah.
It was in an area that we didn't really know too well. Like, we know it, but not really too well. And it was a very like micro area. So we had to really be specific on that specific street. And I think that, especially due to the climate and what's been going on economically, I didn't think that we both were, I mean, I sent it over, and I was like, I sent it very reluctantly. And then I was waiting, and then Priya's like, I just think it's great. It's really expensive. Like,
I was like, I'll take a step back.
I'm really grateful for, but it just means that maybe we're like 1 or 2 more deals away from getting to that point. But
yeah, I hear you. Guys, before I really delve into the deep sides of property with you, I want to just, in a nutshell, could you let the listeners and the audience know what you guys were doing just before you came into property full time?
Yeah, Jasmine, me?
You want me to start? Okay. So I actually started investing when I was 19. I basically invested because my mum was already investing. I didn't really agree with her model of investing so much, and she was being quite pushy to me. So I basically went behind her back, bought a property with my nan's money, where I lived at uni, and it worked out perfectly. My mum actually bought one across the street because it was such a good idea. And I basically slowly was buying 1 or 2 a year. Some years I didn't. And I was working in the city after I did my degree and my master's. And then in 2016, I was just kind of working by the companies and was self-employed anyway. But I went full-time into property in 2016. And yeah, so I've been in it. What year are we in? It'll be 11 years in July this year that I would have been in property.
Okay. And yourself, Priya?
I did a degree in economics, and I worked in corporate banking, so for RBS and for Lloyds Banking Group for 7.5 years. After that, I got made redundant, and I was kind of looking for new contract roles. And then my dad kind of floated the idea. So my dad has a business, and his hobby is property. His portfolio was kind of getting a little bit larger. He kind of wanted me to come on board and help him manage his existing stuff and continually to kind of start to build my own portfolio at the same time. At the time, I wasn't too keen. I didn't know much about it, to be honest. I kind of, I hear it all the time at home, but kind of just was in my own world. I was young. I was like 23, 24 growing up, and just kind of kept fobbing it off. And then when I got made redundant, he said, come for 6 months. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you don't learn anything, you don't learn anything. You can still go and get a job. Like, we weren't in a recession. It wasn't going to be difficult for me to go back into the corporate world. I did that 3.5 years ago, and I'm still sitting here. So yeah, it's worked out. I mean, I've developed my own portfolio, developed a portfolio with Jasmine, and still occasionally sorting out my dad's.
So how did you two get together and form Hardhat?
Jasmine and I met about 4 years ago, but we met through my best friend is Jasmine's partner.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of met, but we were always in like kind of large groups, and we kind of never really spoke, to be honest, right? When I was kind of making the transition into property, he was like, well, why don't you just meet her one-on-one and like have a coffee with her, see what she's up to, kind of, she might be able to help you. We did that, and then as I kind of got into a few months into property, like doing my own stuff, I realized that it's quite lonely. Like back when I worked corporate, I would go into work and it would all be all my mates, kind of just, everybody knew each other. We all kind of, you had a nice, it was a nice like friendship circle. Whereas with me at that time, it was like January, it was cold, it was horrible, and I just had my dad. And then I would come home and I would have my dad in front of me again, and I would have kind of no colleagues, no one to chat to other than him. And then Jasmine and I kept meeting up. I think it became a regular once a week kind of catch up, what you up to kind of thing. And we both kind of stumbled across commercial conversions and new builds at the same kind of time. And from there, we kind of just kept talking. And then we both had the same ideas, and we were like, well, why don't we just try and see what happens between us two, and kind of, develop another side to our business. And kind of that's all that happened, right?
Yeah, we had like a lot of similarities as to where we were. We're very similar age. We live in a very similar area. We had very similar values. We both had our own individual portfolios, but also I worked with my mum, Priya worked with her dad. That itself comes with its own kind of ups and downs that not many people really understand. So we were kind of going from talking from like once a week and meeting out once a week, and then we were doing networking events, which we both bloody hated. So we'd both like each other into going, and like we'd be sitting there, and it kind of naturally just happened that we were doing things at the same time, and it was almost just companionship. And both of our kind of goals aligned, and my mum was quite supportive. Priya's dad was really supportive, and the rest is kind of history, as they say. It all just kind of slotted into place at the right time, at the same time. And then 3.5 years later, I've now stolen her from him. She's now my friend, not his.
Wow. I'm sad about that, to be perfectly honest. But
so happy. Don't even believe what she's saying. She's so happy about it.
No.
Do you know what? Talking to you guys, you've got such a good synergy, and there's such good energy between you two, and it's nice to see that. I mean, like you said, Jasmine and Priya as well, property is a very, very lonely place at the best of times, and especially if you work on your own. I mean, me and my wife work together, but my wife's a silent partner. She's the brains behind it. I just do everything, and I'm the one who does it full time. And like you say, you could be sitting there looking at a deal. You can be in your own space. You might not see anyone, and it gets very lonely, especially if you're a people person, and you want to go out there. You want to talk to people. You want to have a laugh. You want to have a joke. And It's nice. I think it's nice. There's a real synergy just talking to you two, that I can see the energy that flows so nicely between you two.
That's become our adopted child in this house. Literally, she walks in, my mum and dad are all over all the time. I'm like, hello, I'm here as well.
Yeah, give me some attention.
That is so you. That is her line.
I don't get that anymore.
Yeah, well.
So guys, when you formed Hardhat, do you mind telling the audience about your first project? What was the first project you guys did together?
Do you want to start? I can start. So we kind of looked for a project. If we put in offers, whatever, same as everybody else. It took a while to get off the ground, and then we found, kind of by mistake, this care home. So I was calling an agent about kind of getting numbers for a different property, like a different project, and just kind of getting comparables. And then I was on the phone to him for like 45 minutes. And then the next day he called me back and he said, I've got this care home. It's not come on the market yet. Like, I'm looking to sell it. It's got planning permission. What do you guys think? So I think that was the Thursday. And then we drove down like on the Saturday to look at it. So we went, it'd been empty like about 3 years. And then we went back and forth for 4 months, I believe, there or thereabouts in numbers. And then we finally got a price agreed on in February. And so the first project we've had together has been it's basically 8,000 square foot care home that we are converting into 9 2-bedroom flats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in East Sussex.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, so you girls don't do stuff by halves, you know. See, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this Women in Property series, because there's too many blokes out there that are doing a little conversion and they're like, yeah, I'm the man, you know, I'm doing this, it's still so good, I'm doing this. And you guys have just gone in 8,000 square foot. For somebody who doesn't know what 8,000 square foot is, that's a pretty big damn space. You know, you've taken this first project and you've built 9 flats. Ladies, that's remarkable in itself, just hearing that, because that is something that somebody would probably do, you know, maybe 5-10 years down the line, and you've gone and done that. I understand you've both got previous experience in property, but that is a pretty wow project to be starting with. Did it scare you at all?
For sure. It still scares us every day. Like every day we'll get an email, we'll be like, what is this? Why is this happening? And but we've I think we've become a very our attitude on the project is very much bit more chilled than when we first started. It was a lot more daunting at the start. Now we're kind of 9 months into the build, and we kind of know whatever gets thrown at us that there is an answer, and it's kind of really easily dealt with, and that comes from having such a great support network and a good power team predominantly. So it's not been an easy project. It's kind of been very, very challenging. We've also had like a lot of kind of things come up that we kind of didn't expect, and it's not to say I think that's just this kind of thing in any conversion project. It's just the state of the building, the roof, the chimneys, all these kind of things. It kind of comes more to light after purchase, once the building's been stripped back, once everything's kind of out, and you know, so we're enjoying it, we're learning a lot, and I think that's the kind of goal. Yeah, and that was kind of, for us, we kind of wanted to get our teeth into something meaty that we can enjoy, work together on, and kind of just learn.
Yeah.
And I've done a few commercial projects prior to this one, and what I've learned is no 2 projects are ever the same.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
They're so unique, and they keep you on your toes, and you kind of keep being challenged in ways, just like, for example, utilities. It's crazy how it differs from one building to one area, from, you know, things like that. And I think that's one of the reasons we kind of, for the next 3 to 5 years, predominantly want to focus on commercial stuff, because it's a bit more exciting than residential, gives us a bit more of a buzz. There's a lot more to understand. There's a lot more to think about, to incorporate. And that's another reason that both Jasmine and I we also invest across the UK, because the markets are so different, and we like learning about the different types of the market, the demands, what's needed, what's not. And it's crazy. Some areas are so kind of behind. Obviously, we both live in London, and we went on a viewing and we looked at ourselves and was like, what's going on here? We're doing some we're like, I don't understand. Like, how is this? You know, I think it was a 300 grand property in the same area as our care home. We were just like, what? How is this selling? Like,
it is quite insane. Like, I mean, this project, to be honest, I don't think we quite realized what we were kind of taking on, if that makes sense. Like, we knew the number stats. I mean, when we look at a deal, it's going through about 5-6 sets of eyes especially because the project itself is quite expensive, really. We both invest in London, so £1 million plus doesn't scare us. But when you're putting £1 million build on top of that, it's a whole different ball game, you know.
Of course it is. Yeah.
House in West London and put 100 grand into the property, it's not a big deal. But to do kind of £1 million purchase and £1 million build, it's intense. Like, it's scary. So I don't think the numbers worked. It went through everybody's eyes, and we all got it. It all looked great. And then it's that first time when you're like, okay, I'm getting it. Like, I'm offering. Like, is this gonna work? Like, what if they say yes? What are we actually gonna do? Like,
I think we got the offer accepted, and we both, Jasmine saw the email. I think I was on a viewing, and she called me, and we both just sat in silence. We're like, okay,
I don't know what to do.
What do we do? Like,
and it's funny because once we'd offered, our parents hadn't actually seen it, so then they're like, oh, well, like, we want to see it. So then we had to take them down. They're like, we need to celebrate, and we were like, no, there'll be no celebration. Like, what are you talking about? It's so stressful. They're like, no, it's great. Like, let's have a glass of champagne. And we were like,
we're sitting at lunch, like, can you two just go home? Like, we can't deal with you. It's like having children.
Yes,
and they're very keen of like celebrating all wins, however big or small. So the fact that just our offer got accepted, we hadn't even completed, hadn't even exchanged, hadn't even told the solicitor, I don't think, at this point. And they're like, no, come on, let's have lunch, let's have some champagne, celebrate. I'm like, no, this is not happening. Like,
£2 million. Come on, shush! Everybody go and ask their friends for money. It's been like, I feel like this project has taught us that we can work well with each other. Do you know, like, it's a very odd feeling to know, but like, I've been away quite a lot. Like, I travel quite a bit, so I would leave Priya in the lurch almost when I would go.
A holiday once a month, every month last year.
So
really, wow, you lucky. Bit
of a bad business partner sometimes, but like, I'd be on holiday and I'd be like on my emails, you know, as we all do, I'm sure, and she'd be like, go on holiday, and there's no one really I trust to do the work or kind of complete the project like how I would do it. It's Priya. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that she would do it just as well as I would, and I feel like
probably better.
Like, you know, you need to be careful of what you're saying, love.
You know what, it's really nice you say that, because a lot of people start a business and then they actually just end up creating themselves a really busy job. You know, you go from leaving a corporate job and then you start a property business and you've just created a massively busy job. But it's nice that you say that, Jasmine, that you can step away and go on holiday, and you know, Priya's your superstar back home and she's got everything sorted for you, and she's got all the reins there, you know. Because I find it time and time again when I speak to some business owners and they say, you know what, James, if I could have 4 weeks off a year and go on holiday, that would just be a really good goal of mine. And I'm thinking, hold on a second, you don't start a business to, you know, not be able to go on holiday. Your business should be about having a better life and doing better things in life. And it's nice to hear that at least one of you gets away, you know, 12 times a year.
You know what it is, James? Go on, girl.
I had some stuff, like family stuff, a lot last year, and I had quite a bit, probably the same amount of time out as Jasmine, but it's just on other things and due to circumstance, different things. And likewise, at the same time, Jasmine was completely there for me, and kind of, I think it just swings and roundabouts, really. You kind of just do what you got to do, and kind of it works.
Yeah, I was very skeptical of going into a partnership with somebody who wasn't family. Like, I think it's like, you know, people JV from someone they met at some random course or a networking event, and now they're best mates for like a year or whatever. But I feel like we've had quite a tough couple of years, you know, personally, time-wise. The project that we started together was quite a huge one. And I feel like we've just gone strength to strength. We've kind of, don't ever get me wrong, we've had certain disagreements, but you know, just kind of how you would with a relationship, you figure it out, like you speak to each other, you figure it out, and it's never been so bad that we can't get over it, and our families have got closer, and I think that we've kind of built a good foundation, so it's quite nice. But it's hard to kind of trust somebody to do the same job as you, but it's nice having somebody to kind of do it if you do go away and you don't worry. But we're very much of the, well, I'm very much, sorry, I won't speak for Priya, is I don't want to buy 30 houses a year if I can't go away or spend time with my family. I'd rather buy 10 and still have a life, because that's where I think people forget. You're not supposed to be buying 100 houses to then create a secondary job, looking, sourcing, financing, you know, building, putting the next one, doing the pipeline. You've created yourself like there's a no-win situation. I don't ever want to be part of a job or a business or a life that I feel like I need to run away from. I enjoy going away, but I enjoy coming back. And most of the time I come back, I'm like, I am ready. Like, I am excited. Like, what are we doing?
I'm like, be quiet. I've got enough to be doing. I think as well, that's one of the things Jasmine and I also struggled with, because obviously we became friends and then we started work together, and then we forgot to be friends because work kind of took over quite a lot for us, do you know, like, and then it got to a point where we were like, every time we'd kind of meet, our laptops would be out, we would be talking work, it would never be time to kind of switch off. And I think this was a great learning for the both of us, that we kind of have to give ourselves that time, and also not to forget kind of how we started and why we worked so well together. And so now we kind of, well, prior to lockdown, obviously, not so much now, but kind of made sure that we kind of give our friendship some time as well during the month or whatever, the busy week, or even if it's just like, you know, going to site and coming home, just no work talk, like 2 hours in the car, put some music on, let's have some fun kind of thing.
It's really nice you say that, because it's you've identified that you need to have a business relationship and also have a friendship, you know, and a relationship outside of work. It's almost like you two, you know, like you're a married couple, you know, you've got your work life, you've got your home life, you go out, you got to have some fun together. And it's nice you've identified that, because, you know, you get mixed opinions on partnerships. Some people say, oh, they're great, they work really well. Some people absolutely hate them. For me personally, my wife always says to me, James, you've had a few partners in the past and it's never really worked for you. So she's always forced me to kind of just work on my own, because she is very, very good at identifying those skills and sits in the background on my shoulder just saying, look, James, no, that's not working, that's not. But it's nice that you guys you've got a really, really nice balance there as well, as business partners and as friends.
We tried. It takes time, right? Everything you kind of learn, you figure out, you readjust. And I feel like we got into business as friends. So to then just, if something kind of happened, to just be business partners is almost just wrong, because the business was built on friendship. You can't let one or the other go. They kind of both have quite balance. It's quite good.
It's funny as well, because when we sit with our other halves as well, they're like, you two you're too much, like one of you don't even need to open your mouth and the other one's got it, and like we can just sit there. And I think a few days ago we were like having some food and Jasmine was like, I don't even need to look at you, I can feel the anger from across the room, like you are actually fuming, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I am. Like,
sometimes I can feel it, like I can actually like I can just see her face, like I can imagine what her face is going to be like. Sometimes it makes me laugh. Oh, she's funny. You gotta have a laugh.
No, I totally agree with you. So let me ask you, out of the duo, which one of you is the one that's quite sensible and thinks about things, and which one of you is the one who goes with a gut feeling, gets really excited and is like, yeah, we're going to do this deal, everything's going to be fantastic, and then the other one has to rein the person and say, listen, we need to look at this, or would you say you're both pretty balanced?
I think we're balanced.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
There are moments.
Yeah,
and I think that's what works well. Like some days I'll be like, Jasmine, I don't even want to talk. Can you just talk? Like, you know, when you're meeting agents, or, you know, and some days vice versa, Jasmine will have a good day and we'll have a bad day. But I think we're pretty much balanced. And what's really nice as well is that I feel like we kind of sometimes, without even knowing, always there to kind of pick each other up when it is a struggle. Things are, you know, it's property. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And, you know, to get there, you need to be really motivated and determined. And some days you wake up and you're not feeling it. It's just life. It's kind of just, you know, how it is. And
it's funny because like on this project, so we've got certain people, you know, there's multiple moving parts, and on the project, like we've got contractors, we've got like QS, we've got like surveyors, whatever, we've got a whole range of people that we've had to kind of deal with. And there's like some people that I deal with better, and then there's like which we don't both kind of like, neither of us really want to speak to because we're both quite blunt. So some of them are a bit wishy-washy, and then like Priya will be like, oh, you deal with that person, and then it's almost become like we've become good cop, bad cop. And it's quite odd because I've never had that before. I've never had a good cop, bad cop to like situation. So it's quite funny really, like sometimes I'm good cop with one set of people and then she's bad cop, and then it's vice versa. But it's been quite, it works quite well really, because I feel like, especially if you're in a bit of a mood one day, to be bad cop is really helpful.
I think we have to diffuse the situation when we get like that.
That's great. Helps.
And it's so strange because, like, for example, we were going to a viewing and the contractor called me, and we've got two like project managers and the foreman, and Jasmine gets on with one and I get on with the other. And he called me and we're having a chat, and I think it was about 25 minutes. And then I got a phone. She goes, "Do you do that every time you have to call him?" I said, "Yeah, because it makes him like me." Like, she goes, "Haven't got time for that. Like, I'll stick to my man, you stick to yours," and that's kind of it.
It's easy. It's quite, I mean, we've been quite lucky really on this project. Our contractors are phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. But it's probably very rarely you say that about a contractor. Even with COVID, they're still ahead of schedule. So good for them. But it's been a really great experience for us to work with them. Really, we were a bit apprehensive, I think, when we went into the project, because we didn't really, you know, it's such a big amount of money, such a big amount of just a bigger space. It was kind of stuff, it's because it's a period building. A lot of the stuff we would never know what the problem was until we owned it and we stripped it back. So they were really good with us, and I feel like one of them's gonna got Instagram just to follow us. Like, what great
see what you're up to.
he's like, oh yeah, like when you do this, let me know. Like, and he'll have a full, I think he's got like kids our age. So I think he was quite like into like watching us kind of do stuff, and he was quite nice as well. Like when we first met, he emails and he said the girls, and then he was like, "I'm really sorry, like are you okay with that? Like I didn't mean to be rude, like are you gonna feel a way about it?" But he's like the same age as our parents, so and it didn't come from a bad place. Like you could see he was trying to be endearing. So whatever, like if it makes you want to kind of be nicer to us because we're younger, then I'm all here for it, you know.
Yeah. So guys, just as you mentioned this deal, just for the listeners, so you said what is, roughly speaking, it's $1 million purchase and $1 million refurb. Do you mind me asking how you raised that kind of funds for that kind of deal?
Robbed a bank. No, I'm joking. That'd be great.
What are you saying?
Well, it's a joke. It's okay. This is what happens. We said development finance. So that was quite a huge chunk of the build, and then we self-funded and we investor financed. Okay. So that was kind of, we're very much about, if we're asking people to invest in our project, then we should also have some skin in the game, because you know, we don't feel comfortable investing in someone else's project if they've got no money in it, because their motivation is also going to be different. So we were of the same school of thought. We should have something in as well. So we put up money, we had investor finance, and the rest of it all came from development. It was somewhat okay. It was, yeah, it was, there were days that it was a struggle, you know, like you thought you'd paid everything, and then boom, you got hit with another bill, and you're like, oh, I didn't see this coming. Where am I going to get the finance from? Because also at the same time, we've got other projects going on. So sometimes it's not that you don't have the money. The money's just happens to be somewhere else, and you can't move it from one bank to another. You know how it is. So, but we always figured it out. We've not had no complaints from anybody. Everyone's been paid on time, if not early.
Good. Guys, have you ever had any major financial disasters in your property business that have hit you quite hard, and you're like, wow, you know, I learned so much from that, and you know, it was a massive learning experience for you? Or have you been quite lucky?
I don't think it's to do with luck. Like we've had like back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm talking about 20 plus years ago. My mum bought a couple things off plan that didn't work out too great. But that's so far gone, you know. She wasn't really educated or whatever. But
I think I kind of got into a little bit of difficulty. I was one of kind of a little strategy I kind of do on the side is look at short lease flats, and so buy them, essentially extend the lease and flip them, turn them around quickly back onto the market. However, I didn't realise the cost of the lease extension would be so great. So it kind of obviously eats into your profit, and also sometimes the time taken and the process of getting the solicitors to contact the freeholder and all that kind of long stuff. So it ended up kind of on that project just breaking even, as opposed to potentially making anything, but at least it wasn't a negative.
Okay, so nothing major that sticks out where you think like, oh, that really hurt.
No, I mean, sometimes it's going to hurt because you didn't make as much as you wanted, but I think that you've got to be very smart when you make the decision of what you buy. So for instance, if you're buying for HMO, should also by accident work as a buy to let. You should have multiple different exits, because life, I mean, we're in a pandemic, you know, life doesn't always go according to plan. You have no idea what's going to happen. And like, for you to roll out through different kind of economic environments and timings, you just have to be smart. Don't put all your money into something that you're not really sure on. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and don't buy things because you feel like everybody else is doing it. Like, if you are not confident and you don't have the money to back it up, or you're not sure of the exit, then just don't do it. You know, and I think this is where people get themselves into a massive mess. They're either over leveraged, or they've bought in a property in an area they don't really understand, or it doesn't work, and they were kind of more quick like to pull the trigger and buy it, rather than to kind of hold back and wait for the right opportunity and to have done their numbers.
I think it makes perfect sense.
There's like so many ways in which you can learn about property, but essentially, like, obviously Jasmine and I have kind of looked at these courses and kind of, you know, actually been on one or two, and I feel like nothing can teach you more than actually just starting, however big or small that may be, whether it kind of maybe a joint venture, or, you know, kind of learning, working closely with someone. I think I'm not a real fan of courses. I'm not saying anything wrong with them, but I feel like they teach you so much jargon and so much, not like theory, but when you go to apply it, it's not as always as easy as that. The kind of people struggle more so. And like, I can tell when we go to a networking event, if you've been to a property course or to, like, you know, one of these learning things, you can tell immediately. By in which the way they speak, the terms that they're using, and it's kind of just, I just think you have to start and gain experience that way, and there is always a way in.
Yeah, always. I think it's just start small, cut your teeth on maybe a baby buy to let, you know, something that worst case you rent it out to family, or you can live in it or whatever, and just start. Just have it, just, you know, however you start, just start, but start smart. That's what it is.
I like that. Yeah,
That's
smart. Nice. Yeah, like you say, I mean, you can generally tell on a property course who's kind of genuine and who's not. But what really frustrates me is when somebody's trying to teach you about property and they have no property of their own, or you do a background check on them and you think, hold on a second, your balance sheet shows no properties, it shows nothing, there's nothing there, there's no mortgage charges. How are you possibly standing there trying to teach someone about property when you've not done it yourself?
It's a bit of a liberty, isn't it, really? It's funny though, I feel like, I know this is really sexist, so I like, please take it with a pinch of salt, but I feel like it is, as a generalization, like when we go to property events, we find that women generally are quite kind of like a little bit in the background, like they won't really maybe kind of talk as much, or that they'll more talk about like a job they've been in or whatever. But I feel like it's always the men who's like, I've got this many properties, or I've got like this much money available, or I know this many people and I've been in probably this many years. And it's like, okay, we get it. Like, so do you want to give me some more kind of detail? And it's funny because I feel like sometimes we've gone to events, and because I don't know if it's our age or if we're females or if I don't know if we're because we're ethnic, I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's almost like we get bypassed as if we're not doing anything, that we're like fresh off the boat from a course, and then the people just assume that we're like we're not doing anything. Or and it's been a couple of moments, like Priya will say this, someone said something, he goes, "You're never going to make it in property," and I was like,
wow.
He's like, do you remember this, Priya? And I was like, I own more than you, mate. Don't come at me. And I'm quite feisty. So when he said it to me, I was really, really offended. Like, because he didn't know me. And I actually happen to know a little bit about him. So when I said it to him, I was like, I own my properties. So I would feel like you should maybe research me before you start making generalizations that we do not own anything, because we are smart and we own stuff. So, and it's quite funny when you go to networking events, because sometimes I feel like there's no honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just be transparent.
We keep ourselves to ourselves more so, and kind of people make assumptions based on that. And also, Jasmine and I are both 29, but we probably both look like we're 21 sometimes.
Thanks.
No, but it's true. Like, especially me, like I get it a lot. Like, oh, really? You're 29, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? And I've been in a room kind of with my dad, myself, I think Jasmine and her mum were also in the room, and we were talking about a deal, and a gentleman across the table actually said to me, "I don't want to speak to you. Can I speak to your dad? Can he answer the questions?" And I kind of, when I first started in property, sorry, sorry, I don't know what happened. I wasn't as vocal as I maybe am now. I'm probably still not that vocal, but so I kind of brushed it off. And then my dad actually turned around and said, "Well, no, Priya did the work. Priya knows the deal. Priya did the viewing. Why can't you speak to her?" Like, it made no sense. And and then at that point, I got in a bit of a mood, as you do. And I was like, I've got nothing to say. Like, I don't, because if you kind of are treating me with that attitude, you have no relevance. And it's actually hilarious. Jasmine and I bumped into the same gentleman a few months later in a different place. And he came over and he was trying to be like really nice, really friendly. And I just carried on doing my work. And I was like, Jasmine, I've got nothing to say to him. Like, I really don't. If you're going to kind of have this bad attitude, I don't know if it was it couldn't have been because I was Asian, because obviously my dad is Asian too. So it must have been just literally because I was a woman.
Yeah, it was really awkward, because she made me have to talk to him, because she was sitting there in silence. So I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Oh, hi." It's really uncomfortable. And she's like, "Don't talk to him." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay, I think we need to go now. Like, I think our meeting's about to, we were in a hotel lobby waiting for a meeting or something. And I was like, I think we just need to go. Like, let's go.
I feel like you got to call, but you do sometimes have to call people out on their, their behavior. Sometimes you do have to kind of put them back in their place. We had an agent, and we offered, I can't remember if we offered asking or just underneath, because the deal worked, and it was well over £1 million. And he goes, "Well, and it was really, really obnoxious. And he was like, "I don't know, you lot are very young. I don't know if you've got the money. Like, I need to see proof of funds, da, 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 da." He was just really rude. And I was absolutely fuming. And we told his dad, he's like, "I'm going to send him the bank account. We've got that money cash. Like, we'll buy it." And then we were like, "No, don't worry. Like, we've got it. It's really nice that you're going to kind of basically we call for backup, but we were cool." And then I just sent an email. I was like, "I don't know what your problem is. Is it because I'm female? Is it because you feel like we might have this amount of money? Is it because I'm young? I don't know what your problem is." And we then from that day decided to never do a deal and business. And he was actually the owner of that agency. And we said we would never work with that agency again. Like, we get to choose who we work with. And we don't particularly want to work with people that have some sort of judgment against us, because, well, for whatever reason that might be. Unless I've been rude to you, then I totally get it. But
which we're very rarely rude to people, by the way.
Yeah, just to each other, not to other people.
I think it's really important to have to work with people that you gel with, regardless of what kind of, in any shape or form. For example, the care home that we bought from an agent, he was a complete nightmare to work with. He kind of saw the opportunity. I think that we were two younger girls. He probably hasn't dealt with some people like that before. He could kind of take advantage, keep pushing the prices up, pushing our boundaries. He even tried to play Jasmine and I off. So he would call me, say something, oh, Jasmine said this, can you commit to this? And I was thinking to myself, Jasmine's never said this in her life. Like, how are you saying that? And I think one day it was hilarious because he called my phone and then called Jasmine's phone whilst we were together. So we could hear each other. And he's trying to kind of increase our purchase price. Obviously, we're trying to come to a negotiation. We're trying to do like a deal that works for us as well as satisfy them. And he was just kind of so arrogant. And I think it was pure because when he spoke to like my dad on a few occasions and met in person, he was never like that towards him, was he? Never. And then it got to a point where again my dad was like, I'll just deal with it, and we were like, no, we will deal with it, because it's kind of this is our learning curve as well. Like, we need to learn how to deal with any Tom, Dick and Harry that's kind of thrown at you, and you know, that's a reflection of them and not us. And that's something that we've had to learn, just not to get kind of disheartened, upset, kind of push back, because it's not a reflection of us. That's not how we do business, and we would never want to be like that. And it's just honestly a reflection of them and their ignorance.
Yeah, it was really hard though, because I feel like you naturally want to be angry, because I actually was on the phone to Priya when he called Priya, and he was basically lying about what I had said. And you know, you're going to cause a rift, or you could potentially cause problems just for an extra 10-15 grand here or there or whatever. And it was really, I mean, we both aged over this process. Like, I have my hair, I'm getting old, I no longer look 21. Do you know what I mean? But you know, it was a really tough thing, because naturally, if somebody is kind of lying about you, you feel anger. You know, you feel anger, you feel kind of disrespected. And some people will sit there passively, but then sometimes you can hear it and you kind of want to react, but that says something bad about us. So we had to kind of, it was a very big learning for us to like kind of check our emotions, check our business ethic. And we were very lucky that was probably the only experience on this project kind of being an issue with us being females. Otherwise, with the contractors who maybe kind of get a bad rep with females, I think maybe sometimes they have been phenomenal. And also there's a female carpenter on our site.
She's great.
We love her. We're like, oh my God, like there's another girl here. Like, this is amazing. Like, how are you here? Like, we're all surrounded by men. Like, I love it. Like,
we were on site last week and I said to Jazzy, let me get some pictures of her, like, you know, for the Instagram. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, but I'll ask her, and like, it'll be like, it's great to see like another woman doing just as much as the men, and you know, doing so well. We love that.
Apparently she's the best carpenter on site. You know, she's got great detail. She's really like thorough, very clean. I was like, yeah, I love this. Love this.
You know what, guys, that leads me on to my next question, actually. You know, being young Asian ladies in a predominantly man field, would you say you guys have felt, or maybe not felt it directly, have you indirectly felt any kind of discrimination against you? Do you feel maybe contractors speak to you in a different way? Have you felt like maybe they're looking at you and thinking, you know what, there's a couple of girls or a couple of ladies, you know, they don't know what they're talking about. We could really take advantage here, or we could bump this up, bump that up. Have you ever felt any of that? And do you think that's still quite apparent maybe in the construction industry?
I think we certainly felt it with, for example, when we went out to tender process, there were some contractors kind of you could just tell they were having a laugh. Like, one guy said, in order for me to start work, you have to contribute to my site setup. And for us, that's a no-go. Like, why am I going to, if you have a business, your cash flow should be strong enough in order to set you up on a new project. And, you know, he was just trying all sorts to kind of win the job and talk the talk, and kind of think that we'll kind of get walked all over. We actually sat in his office for a good couple of hours. And I think we both walked out and we said, no, kind of, because we didn't gel with them. And I think working with contractors and tradesmen, we kind of only work with people who we know that we're going to get along with. And it's actually strange, because Jasmine and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I think all the contractors and all the teams I have all across the UK are literally my number one fan. like they're so supportive. The fact that I'm a girl, the fact that I'm young, the fact that, you know, I'm want to learn, and they're willing to give me the time and the and you know, explain things a bit better. Sometimes I'm not a builder. I don't understand every kind of concept. I think that's really important. Whereas you kind of have to get to know the person a little bit, I think, before you can know whether you're going to work with them or not.
Yeah, I've kind of had, for the most part, I've had good experiences. Back in the day, like when I first started, I feel like it was a lot harder. Like I feel like, and I think this is the problem. We'll never know if there was a judgment against us or someone was kind of rude or, I don't know, didn't take us seriously. I don't think we'll ever really know if it's due to our age, if it's due to our ethnicity, if it's due to our gender. I think that's the struggle for us. We'll never really know which one of the three it could be. So when I first started, there was a contractor up north who proper took the piss, to be quite honest, you know, like he could have done a better job, but I obviously was also far away. I used to work abroad a lot, so it was quite hard for me to kind of keep an eye on things. And he was through the letting agent that I had used him. So when I came back, sometimes I think you've got to throw your weight around a little bit. Sometimes I think I was too nice. I just was like, oh, everyone's trying to make a bit of money, whatever, trying to make a cut. But he was quite rude. He was quite rubbish at his job. He overcharged, and that's a very hard lesson to learn, you know? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think from then it was very much that that was when I decided I wanted to meet the contractor and see his work. And then sometimes be a little bit firm when you meet them, so they kind of know that you have a boundary and you don't know, you do know something. When I first started, I made the decision to do the first house up myself, just so I kind of knew like what items were, how long certain things would take, how much certain things cost, because I was very worried about being taken advantage of. So I kind of did the first couple myself, like doing it up, and had a little bit of help from my uncle and stuff, but I no longer do that. But
no, I can tell. I can't imagine you girls getting on site and getting your hands dirty now. You know, it seems that you've got, yeah.
We would. We would. Priya would look at her face. She is not happy.
The other day, we were on site and they were bringing the plaster in, like carrying these 10 kg bags. I can go to the gym and I can carry 10 kg, no problem. I'm not carrying plaster bags. He was like, you're going to go and get involved? I was like, no, you having laughed. That's just not me.
No, I'm the opposite. Like I'll go, so I have HMOs up north. And then like obviously every summer, you know, the tenants move out and then you kind of got to do a little bit, whatever. And then every summer, like it's always the little bits that don't get finished. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a little bit, the rubbish has not been put away or the bed hasn't been moved somewhere. And I will go for 2 days because I know it will take me that long for all the houses. And I'll take a hammer, I'll hang up pictures, like I'll get involved because I have to. Because sometimes it's easier just to do the job yourself. I'll just do it myself. It's easier. It's great.
The other day, Jasmine sent me a picture. She was like, oh, do you like this? I'm putting this picture up. I was like, yeah, really nice. I said, it's lockdown. How are you going to put the picture up? She goes, myself. Oh. I was like,
a shed full of tools, like, you know.
I said to her other half, I was like, can you come and fix my wardrobe when you're allowed? Because my shelves kind of like the hinges come off. Is it a hinge?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's dropped a bit. It's a bit wonky. He goes, yeah, no problem. I said, but can you bring a hammer? Because I don't have a hammer. He was like, you don't have a hammer in your house? I was like, no. Like, my dad is the least DIY man in the world. And like, I just don't know how to do these things. Whereas Jasmine, she gets like stuck in, and I'm just like,
We're only 2 females in my house, right? Like if we don't fix it, I can't be calling somebody every time I need a light bulb fixed. Like if I'm going into the loft, I'm going into it myself. Like,
light bulb, Jasmine, come on.
My mum mows the lawn. Like, do you know, like I'll do stuff in the house. I'll buy stuff from IKEA, like my desk. I'll do it out myself. And if something don't work, I'll say to my other half that I feel like I did one part wrong. Show me what I did wrong so I don't do it wrong next time. Like I'm very much like I want to get involved. I want to figure it out, and I can I can try to be just as good on stuff as you guys, and vice versa. You know, why not?
No, I think that's great. I think you secretly love it, really, don't you? Getting the toolbox out and putting pictures up and going up and painting bits. I mean, I don't try and do it as much as I used to, but you know, it's kind of rewarding seeing a project come to an end, and you've kind of been the last person who's gone in and maybe painted that little wall or moved that bed or hung that picture, and you look back and you think, wow, what an achievement. I actually did that.
I love doing stuff like that. I like that. I feel like we're coming towards the end of this project, and I feel like it's getting more and more real for us. And we're seeing like the coming soon board. It's gone live on Rightmove, and I feel like we're getting more and more to that point that, you know, you can see from where it started to where it's finishing, and the rooms are getting together, and we're getting a little bit like, you know, you can see it coming together, and you're like, oh, we chose that kitchen, and we chose the flooring, and oh, look at this. And it's a really weird feeling, like it's a proper accomplishment.
Yeah, of course it is.
On Rightmove, and I messaged Jasmine. I was like, the agent just you know, sent us an email, we're live, blah blah blah. And I was like, this all feels real now. And she's like, we say this every time something happens, but it kind of it just does get that a bit more real, and kind of, you know, sometimes you think when you're in things, I don't know if I'm saying, but you kind of, it's day in, day out, you kind of don't take a step back and kind of realize I've actually done this. And then I think last time we went to site, we had our coming soon board up, and we both stood like across the road, and we kind of both looked at each other and were like, we've actually done this. Like, how amazing is that? And we've
actually pulled it off.
Yeah, I think something Jasmine and I obviously don't do as much is like kind of give ourselves credit where it's due. We kind of just shrug things off and kind of just be like, okay, what's next? Like, come on, let's keep going. And that's kind of not a great thing, but it's also not a bad thing, I don't think.
Yeah, no, like Priya did like great, like when we were together, she got her first investor, and I think that's a bloody great milestone, like huge. As an investor yourself and as a developer, if that was a really big like kind of hurdle for you, the minute that you close that deal, like that's an amazing, that should be honored. Like we should kind of acknowledge that she did that. She was like, no, it's fine, it's not a big deal, and I was like, it's a huge deal, like it's so great, you should be so proud of yourself. And we have to remind each other of something that was really hard for the other person, or it was kind of a really big challenge for the other person. I mean, I did formula in a spreadsheet because I'm so bad at spreadsheets. Priya's like, Jasmine, you did a formula, look, I was so impressed. And I was like, yes, you know, like you want to be acknowledged for the stuff that you're doing, and sometimes you forget to acknowledge it yourself. So it's good that we have each other to tap each other on the back when we've done a good job. Feels good.
So I guess the dying question is, once your care home project conversion is finished, how are you two going to celebrate? You know, how are you going to award yourselves?
Well, hopefully we're allowed out lockdown.
Hopefully there's no COVID.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do a little holiday.
That's fantastic. Anywhere nice? Have you planned it?
Well, Jasmine wants to go to Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to go to Puerto Rico. I just want to go somewhere where I can just kind of chill out, switch off, have some sun.
Priya wants to go to Dubai for the 100th time. That's where she wants to go. I'm not here for that. We're going to go somewhere neither of us have ever been before and have a good time there. Yeah,
oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely. No, at least you've realised that you're gonna do something to celebrate, guys. Before I bring it to an end, I want to ask you one question. If there's, the main focus behind this series is talking about, women in property doing fantastic things, and I think it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you this morning because you guys are doing some really good things, and I'm so glad I spoke to you. If there's a young lady out there, she's there right now thinking, I really want to get into property. It seems like a daunting field. I'm worried about it being male dominated. I don't know which way it's going to go. What would your advice be to this young lady, considering you two have gone through it yourselves?
I would say I'm a big overthinker, and I second guess myself a lot. And kind of always think, what if, and it's always kind of what if negatively, not positively. So I would say kind of don't double guess yourself and just try. And as long as you start, you can always identify where you go wrong along the way, and it can only get better. And just to kind of keep going and don't give up, because it does take time in the property field, and you do need to allow yourself that time to grow and change as well, I think. And confidence is a huge thing. When I first started, I really lacked confidence. I kind of also was not kind of like afraid to tell people what I was doing, but kind of just like not sure how people kind of react. Will they take me seriously? So as soon as my confidence grew a little bit, I found a lot of change within myself and in my work as well.
Yeah. I think for me, I think as females, we like to vent a lot, to like, you like to kind of have a sounding board. So I would say that just pick one or two people that are supportive and are quite positive influences in your life. They don't have to be within property, and have them kind of be your pushing factor to moving forward. Very similar to Priya, I kept a lot of things to myself. And that's something hugely that I struggled with, because I always I didn't really have someone to just kind of have a conversation with when I was getting into property. I felt like it was quite, I'm not shameful, but it was not something that I was supposed to do. So I kept it to myself. I think find a good support system, one or two people, be it your family, be it your friends, be it someone you meet at a networking event that's also kind of on the same journey as you, and just have somebody that's there being your supporter the whole way through. And I think that way you'll always have somebody pushing you to be better and kind of making the steps that scare you.
No, that's some really solid advice, and thank you for that, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to ask you one last question that I ask everybody, and it seems to throw people at times, but what's one thing or one vice you just cannot live without? Individually, that is.
Go on, Pro.
What do you mean? Like
something? No, something that you just have to do. Maybe a naughty pleasure. Something that you that you're known for.
Okay, we both have the same issue. we both really don't want to say it, but I feel like we're just going to say it. We are shisha addicts.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Huge shisha addict. He's not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Yeah. So that's how we chill out. We'll go on site. We'll go to our local. This is the one thing that I think we struggled the most with lockdown. We're the people that will go out for a fancy dinner to celebrate and then end up back in some dodgy place near our house, because that's just where we feel comfortable.
It's not dodgy, firstly.
A little bit dodgy. It's not like the nicest.
Second of all, we actually referred to it yesterday as our second home.
Yeah.
Kind of, you walk in, the people are great, it's just chilled out, good time to switch off and just catch up. And I think that's something that we both kind of missed during lockdown. Is it's not even the shisha, I think it's like the social aspect, because like everybody there has become a friend, we go with our friends, it's kind of just nice.
But we are addicts, we both have pipes at home, okay? That's all I'm saying.
During lockdown.
We have our own, that's what we do. That's okay, that's our vice, and it's shared.
Guys, that is absolutely fantastic. Do you know what? I can't wait till COVID is over. No doubt I will see you guys sometime at a networking event, or, at one of Tej's many events or something. And I can't wait to have a glass of champagne with you. And if you've got your pipe as well, we can give that a go. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, how can people connect with you if they want to reach out and just ask you a question or just generally follow your journey?
We're on Instagram at the Hardhat Developers. And you can drop us an email at info@thehardhatdevelopers.co.uk. Why can't I speak English? I've spoken so much now, I'm swallowing my words. And yeah, just feel free to drop us an email, Instagram, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, guys, I will put all the show notes in and links to your socials. And for everybody listening, if you got value from this, there's only one thing I ask you to do is jump onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, preferably a 5-star and a nice comment. And we'll continue to be bringing you value like this. And I'm super excited about the Women in Property series, because every woman I speak to on this podcast is doing something amazing so far. And it's just simply motivational. And you lads out there listening, don't judge a book by a cover next time you're at a property event, and don't just disregard someone just because you think, oh no, they're a lady, they may not be doing anything. Guys, once again, thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.